Righto, welcome to Captain Dorja's Armory. This is Captain Dorja coming at you from the North American server, and right here, this giant piece of Soviet sex machine is the IS-7 Tier 10 heavy tank. We're going to be taking a look today at a replay with the IS-7 that highlights a couple interesting things in World of Tanks. The first thing is the deficiency of auto-loader tanks at a fixed point defense. This isn't a very good example of that, considering the other circumstances involved in the match, mainly the fact that I was fighting very outnumbered, so I wasn't able to fully take advantage of the weaknesses of an auto-loader playing defense, but it's still present in the replay. This replay also gives a really good example of the type of armoring common on Soviet heavy tanks, like the IS-7, the IS-3, the Chinese 110, and to a limited extent, the IS-4 has this, and the IS-6 also. The IS-4 doesn't quite have it. You can see the shape of the IS-4's frontal armor is almost shaped like half of a hexagon. The IS-7, it is triangular shaped. And it's the same way on the IS-3 and the IS-8. This armor scheme is called a Pike nose, and the Pike nose armor scheme is really effective in certain situations when you have multiple enemies engaging you from the front within an arc of something like, this far to either side, almost straight ahead of you. The Pike nose armor scheme is very, very strong because it's already angled. You don't need to angle it. The IS-7's armor works like a claymore mine, front towards enemy. That you would think that's something in common with virtually all tanks, but it's not. Something like the KV-3, you want to angle it a few degrees to the side to increase the effective thickness of this part of the armor, and this lower plate. German tank drivers need to learn how to angle, or their armor is virtually useless. Things like the Jagdtiger, you want to angle them quite sharply, because this upper casement is 250 millimeters thick, but this front armor here is only the thickness of a Tiger II, which is only 150. And you have this very large lower plate, which is even thinner, something like 110. The E100, the E75, all these things, you have to angle them quite sharply, something like 15 to 20 degrees. But with tanks like the IS-7 that have the Pike nose, you don't want to angle, you want to point straight at the enemy. And the reason why is when you're pointing straight at the enemy, shots coming in from this direction hit your armor, and it is already angled and already sloped. Now, if you angle your armor towards the enemy, imagine this Sherman Easy 8 in the garage is shooting at me. If I angle like that, all I'm doing is I'm presenting him my armor at a flat angle, thus lowering its effective slope, which lowers its effective thickness, which makes his shots more likely to penetrate. So the Pike nose armor, it's like a claymore mine, straight at the enemy. When you're surrounded, Pike nose armor is not ideal. But when you can get the enemy confined in a small area in front of you, Pike nose armor on the IS-7 is incredibly strong. Actually, I find my IS-7 to be more resilient than my IS-4, even though it has less armor and less HP. I also prefer the mobility of the IS-7. If I could put the gun of the IS-4 on my IS-7, it would be a perfect tank. But the 130mm is still really good. So anyway, enough chatter in the garage. Let's take a look at this replay, and I've talked enough about how this Pike nose armor works. Let's take a look at it in action. Alright, so here we are in a Tier 10 match on Lakeville. Obviously it's a Tier 10 match. I'm in a Tier 10. There are 4 Tier 10s per side. The enemy have an IS-7, a T-110E5, a T-57 Heavy, a T-110E3 tank destroyer, My team has myself in an IS-7. We have an AMX-50B French Tier 10 Heavy. We have a 121 and a Leopard 1. Immediately on this match, just let me increase the map size. Immediately on this match, I'm thinking, looking at our team list, I need to come down onto this 8 line, right where I'm heading right now, because generally speaking, you need tanks down here that have quite a bit of staying power, and this is an ideal situation to put the Pike nose armor of the IS-7 to work. I can contain the enemy in front of me. I don't have to worry about being attacked from all sides, so I can point my armor straight at the enemy and have a reasonably good chance of getting lots of bounces. Also, if you look at our team list, we have a 50B that is poorly armored. We have a 121, that's a medium tank, and we have a Leopard 1, poorly armored. We have an AMX 5120, poorly armored. M103, moderately armored. You know, we don't really have anything that can come down here and just take the hits, so I decide to do it. Unfortunately, the only backup I get is an AMX 5100, and he doesn't really last very long. So we have first contact, a T-34 and a T-57 Heavy. I bounce my shot off the T-34. Now the T-57 comes out to unload on me. He only has 4 shots. And that T-57 just bounced 2 shots off of me and then put 2 shots into the AMX 5100, nearly killing it. Now he's out of ammo and he has to reload. I don't know the reload on that thing, but I'm guessing it's about 30 seconds. So he's came out and done no damage to me and done a lot of damage to a Tier 8 Heavy and taken 900 damage himself, but now he's out of the battle for 30 seconds. If it wasn't myself and a basically dead AMX 5100, right here, I would have really pressed my advantage against that T-57 and just tried to hurt him while he couldn't do anything about it. But I'm alone. I'm essentially alone, so I can't be that aggressive. Right. Now, you can see that there are 2 Tier 9 mediums here, and the 5100 is dead. Unfortunately, he died in a place that's blocking me. I can't retreat without really exposing my side armor to these guys. And you can see my Pike nose armor taking damage right now. I bounced a shot from the T-54, and then 1 penetrated. The Sense 7 knocked out my gun, so I repair kitted it, and the T-54 put 1 shot through. At this point, I'm just trying to back up around the 5100 while keeping my armor facing the Centurion. And luckily, you can see right there, I've got an E50 who's come up in support, so things are looking a lot better over here. They still have 2 autoloader tanks, so I want to be careful about going too aggressive until those guys are empty, but that E50 has really brought in some good support. So I put a good hit onto the T-57 Heavy, but unfortunately, the way I had to round that corner on him, he gets a really good shot into my armor, and he easily penetrates. I'm down to half health. I come around for another shot. All I get is a tracking hit. He puts 370 more damage into me. Things are not looking great down here. They could be worse, but they could be a lot better. Right here, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to back up into a position where I can fire on the T-57 with my pike nose pointing at him, while still keeping my pike nose pointed at the T-54. The friendly E-50 wasn't making that easy, but mostly the problem was just I didn't know how much ammo these guys had or how aggressive they were willing to be. And the E-50 moves in for a shot, gets a shot through, and I sneak the killing blow behind the E-50's turret. The T-54 puts 2 more hits on me. I've got 141 health left. I straighten out my angle, and you can see his last shot bounced. Right here, we're going to take a look at my armor. I think the T-54 actually used a little bit of gold ammo on me. You can see he got 1 hit on my lower plate, which is fairly weak, so it went through. You can see he actually bounced 1 off my upper plate, which is not surprising. With only 210 millimeters of penetration on his gun, my upper plate pointed at him should be pretty difficult to penetrate. The 2 hits by the headlight on the left side of my upper plate were from the T-54 or the T-57 Heavy. He's got plenty of penetration to go through my upper plate. Plus, I wasn't angled when he took those shots. And you can see another hit on the front left side by the shackle with the cable on it from the T-54. I think he might have been using gold ammo. I'm not certain. I wanted to do some penetration tests, but I don't know anybody who has one of those tanks. So, unfortunately, no penetration tests. But it doesn't matter, because I'm still alive, and he's dead. And I did take his last hit squarely off my pike nose, and it bounced. So now, me and the E-50 are moving in to clean up the enemies around their base. Both of us are almost dead. This team, by the way, was horrible. They had 4 against 1 with 2 Tier 9 mediums, a Tier 10 heavy, and a Tier 8 heavy, and they couldn't overwhelm my IS-7 and kill it before that E-50 arrived. These people were bad. They lost on all 3 fronts, and they were fighting, and our team was fighting outnumbered on 2 of those fronts. Now, right here, this Object 212 gets a sneaky shot on me, and then you can watch this scumbag back into the water and kill himself. I've been watching a lot of Quickie Baby live streaming, so this just made me mad, and I wanted to see if I could pull a Quickie Baby here and shoot this guy as he was in the water trying to suicide, but the faggot was able to kill himself right before I got there, and I end up drowning myself as well. So that was a little bit of a fail scumbag kill, but that dick in his Object 212, I can't even pronounce his name, Alforlorn something. If you ever see this, just know that you're a queer and a pussy. So, yeah, suck on that. Just because your team is bad, you feel like you need to deny the people that played well and worked hard. You feel like you need to deny them the experience that they have earned by doing well just because you personally got to have a bad day. That's what we call being a childish little brat. So, he's been reported for team damage and unfair play, unsportsmanlike, whatever the heck the thing is, and nothing will ever come of it, but I hope he gets fined or banned or something, but I doubt it. Anyway, I ended up killing myself in the attempt, and I failed at the scumbag suicide anyway, so I guess I'm the bigger joke here than him. But, yeah. Except for the retarded death at the end, that was a really good IS-7 match. It's a really good showcase of the pike nose and its effectiveness at bouncing enemy shots as long as you keep it pointed at the enemy. It gives a little bit of a showcase of the difficulties of autoloader tanks. Those 2 American autoloaders, they both ran their clips out, and so when I was alone, they couldn't overwhelm me because the 2 of them had no firepower while they were reloading. And the Centurion tried to push, and the E-50 was able to get up in time, and together we were able to stop the Centurion before he could push. And then the 2 autoloader tanks were at the disadvantage now, and they weren't able to exploit. So, good example of the IS-7's capability. The IS-7 still got it, and just be careful with those autoloaders in a time like that. I don't have post-battle results screen, but that T-57 heavy kill allowed me to re-earn my Expert United States badge, which was pretty good. I don't play my Tier 10s very much, so I haven't fought a lot of T-57 heavies, so I hadn't killed one since they came out. Also, I was at sea for the first 2 months of this patch, so I wasn't playing any World of Tanks. So yeah, that made it hard to kill one. Anyway, that's all for now. Excuse me. Excuse me. Well, that's all for now. So, Captain Dorja here with Captain Dorja's Armory, and just want to remind you, you can never have enough big guns.